cycling is a great equalizer. It's for everybody. And so whether you're a girl or a boy, it gives you the same opportunities to do whatever you wish and to give you that independence. And for young people, that's very, very positive, because it gives them that opportunity to go and meet other people. And you may have heard about the suffragettes at the time when they were advocating for women's vote. The suffragettes at the time, to get together, they went on their bikes. Even then, at the time when biking was not very, very common, women suffragettes, they got to their bikes to gather together. And that's, I find that a very positive story. So for women, it's a way to be free. And that's why I would encourage, indeed, also girls to try biking and to see whether that's something for them.
Cycling empowers women because it gives them that extra liberty to move around. And we may take that for granted in our societies today in, for example, my country in Denmark. But it has not always been like that. So for many women, by the way, when they were allowed to go on bikes, because when bikes were first invented, it was for the men because it was thought not decent for a woman to get onto a bike. So the freedom for a woman to get her own bike, which could take her from A to B, for example, from home to work, much faster and in a still relatively safe way. If you see pictures of Copenhagen in the 30s, it's really all bikes, right? It was before that one could think that every family would have a car. So it has meant empowerment because it gave them the freedom to get around and also getting to their jobs. And as I say, we might take it for granted today, but it has not always been like that. And if you look at other countries' development and systems and so forth, then, you know, having bikes integrated into society is very often a very efficient means of transportation. And we see it also here in Manila with the lockdown. There was no public transportation, and people started taking to their bikes. For many, it also became the way that you could get from your home and to your job and back again. And then for some, it has also become something that they really like to do. Because today it also empowers us in the sense that we need to move, because many of us have jobs where we sit still. So if you have the bike on a daily basis, it also helps you with regards to your physical health, which is a growing issue in all urban areas, that these lifestyle diseases that come from not getting up and moving, many types of diseases can be derived from that, and we can help prevent that also. And it enables your children to be independent if it's a safe area where you can let your children go, but it gives them a wider range to go to their friends or what else. So in many ways it stimulates your family life also.
Cycling is a very important tool to empower women, but also to empower men, to empower me to travel. I've been cycling for many years. In fact, I started cycling following my wife because she was cycling and I still am in love with her. So I bought a bike and started cycling 30 years ago, and I've never stopped in Brussels. I've always cycled to my office, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I've never taken the car to my office, and this is more for practical reasons. You're free, you are out of traffic, you have control on your timing. So I used to go, for example, to the Foreign Affairs Council in the Belgium in Schumann Place by bicycle. It's a much more practical way of moving yourself. So I think the Philippines could do a lot more to encourage bicycle. And hope that will going to happen soon in the future. Thank you.
March is the month when we remind ourselves to recognize the role that women play every day in our society. This March, we give special recognition to the women frontliners, the doctors, the nurses, the drivers, the managers, the cashiers, but also the mothers, grandmothers, and sisters who played more than their fair share, took more than their fair share in caring for the minors and seniors during the lockdown. In March, we celebrate a core value of the European Union and the Philippines, gender equality, the good fight for an inclusive world. Today, we wanted to take the street, literally, on our bicycles, to demonstrate that cycling around Metro Manila is one of the many ways for women to empower themselves. However, in support of the efforts of our partners in Manila and Pasay City to contain the virus, we'll come back later. After all, we can celebrate March all year long. Moving in a bicycle is cheap, easy, clean, egalitarian, allowing many people, women and men, to accomplish their daily chores while exercising. With COVID-19 and the lack of safe public transport, cycling has increased in Metro Manila. For many women in the Philippines, cycling has become a source of empowerment and freedom, boosting independence and assertiveness, and reinforcing gender equality. For many years in Brussels, I have commuted to work on my bike because it was fast, economical, and the best way to clear my head to and from the office. Our cycling culture in Europe has encouraged governments to continue improving road safety for cyclists. I'm very happy to see more and more Filipinas and Filipinos on their bicycle. Bike commuting must be supported in every way possible, and I'm very glad that all levels of government are starting to significantly improve and develop cycling and decongest our roads. And as the European Union, this is definitely something we support. Developing a cycling culture is key. And as usual, women are the best agents for change. Together, let's fight a good fight.
Mabuhay, and my very best wishes in this Gender Month of March to all women. This year, we have decided to put our focus on cycling, since riding a bicycle is a strong expression of independence, freedom, and equality. I still remember when I was a child and my father was teaching me how to ride a bicycle, how proud I felt when I could do it, how independent it was, a feeling of freedom. I knew I could do it and I could travel even long distances on my own independently. Historically, when the bicycle was introduced as a mode of transport in Germany and in Europe, it was usually used by men. But very soon, women groups came up, demanding equal rights and making riding a bicycle an expression and a statement for equality. Today, in Germany, riding a bicycle has become a common mode of transport for men and women, for children and families alike. They are using the bicycle for going to work, going to school, for leisure activities, and much more. The advantages of riding a bicycle is that it comes at low or even no running costs, no cost for fuel or for paying for a transport fare, and you don't have the hassle for finding a parking space like for your car. Riding a bicycle is also a clear statement for the protection of climate and environment and for taking responsibility towards the next generation. Since the pandemic started, also here in Manila, we have seen more and more bicycles. This is an encouraging sign with regard to all the points I mentioned: independence and equal rights, climate and environment protection, as well as taking responsible action towards the next generation. All these points are so relevant in Germany as well as here in the Philippines. Let us use this potential and let us build on it.
I think the cycling culture in France really started developing not so many years ago when Vélib was introduced in Paris. This was a major change in terms of green mobility in the city, in terms of ease of traveling through different means of transport. It meant that people all of a sudden realized they didn't have to be sitting in a car or in a bus, but they could just be free to drive around the city with a very easy to use, very, very popular new means of traveling. It was such a success that many other cities in France have developed it. And it just empowered people, and women, I would say, in particular, because they're the ones who were most often in buses or who were most often in public transport. And they ended up being independent, being able to travel when they needed, where they wanted, and be able also to perhaps be more included in economic life, more empowerment for women in economic life. And also many of them took it as a sport, as a consequence of being more comfortable with driving around. Of course, it means a lot of public investment as well in making the city safe for people on bicycles. And that has changed also the life in cities. Well, I think there has been for a long time women cyclists in sports in France, in even professional cycling. We have a very well-known cyclist, Jeanne Longo, who's been a champion for many years, and she's really been a model. However, the Tour de France, which is the most famous cycling event in France and has been existing for over a century, actually 118 years, it's been a male-only sports event for so many years. And now there are thoughts of opening it to women as participants or having a separate women's Tour de France, which shows that mentalities are changing and women are more empowered as participants. But it took a long time for that to happen, and I hope that that's going to mark a real difference into being more inclusive and also encouraging women to practice more cycling as a sport and even as professional champions. I would like to recall a personal story. When I was living in Brussels, I remember once going across the large park that was next to my home, and there was a very moving scene there. There was a group of refugee women who were taught how to cycle, and I just remember with so much emotion the sheer joy of their being there cycling together. And it was so clear that they were first learning a new skill, then knowing that that would empower them and make their mobility easier, make them more independent, and then make them be in the public space in a different way. So it's a very strong image for them of that moment of joy, of happiness, and of hope also for their future and their integration. This year, as you know, Mexico and then France will be hosting the Generation Equality Forum. And this is all very much about women's empowerment around the world, everywhere, of course, including France, the Philippines, and all the countries around the world. The event really is about women empowerment. It's about also fighting violence against women. It's also very much about the place of women in our society. And I think cycling is also an important part of it. I think that cycling and women taking to cycling for leisure, for green mobility, for sport is a very important part of their empowerment. It's also a very important element in changing the future of cities, making them more sustainable cities with more sustainable mobilities, with women's space in society and in the public space being taken more into account, and there being part and parcel of that space, and men being more conscious of that, and the public authorities being more conscious of that, is a very important event. So I would put it in the framework of that Generation Equality Forum, women empowerment, women in public life and what is their role and how they can change our future into a more sustainable future.